Good morning, everybody. It's Sarah and Kyle Hughes of Hughes Realty.
What's up? What's up?
Here we are for show 2 of Coffee with Hughes Realty. Hope you guys liked last week's episode where we talked about zero down home loans and if they're a scam or not. And today we have a really exciting topic to talk, and that is on the option period.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if anybody had any questions last week on the zero down home loans, but there was so much knowledge there. So if you guys didn't catch it, go back and check that out. Depending on, where you're looking and your situation will depend on what program best suits you. Not every one of those were for everybody, but seriously, there was some really killer content there. So, reach out, I guess, if you have questions on that, or go back and watch it on the zero down home loans. I just love that one. I just loved talking about that because it helps so many people and gets them in such a great position. But anyways, today we thought it'd be cool to talk about option period. What is an option period? How that benefits the seller or not? How that benefits the buyer? And kind of the whole process of that. So
Exactly. So Kyle and I were actually talking yesterday. We were driving and we were talking about option period and how we had both. So Kyle and I had both sold real estate before we moved to Texas. We had sold in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and in those states they didn't have what was called an option period. So that was new to us when we moved to Texas about 7 years ago. It's fairly similar in theory to what other states have, but it's a little bit unique in that it's a period of time.
Well, yeah, they have like a financing contingency,
right?
So instead of the option, they would have or it does say financing? I meant inspection contingency. Mm-hmm. So you would have an inspection and you have a contingency based on that. Where in Texas, it's really cool because you have an option period. I thought it was kind of weird at first because I was used to that other one, but I actually really like it.
So let's break it down for people. So let's say we have someone listening and they've never bought a house, they've never sold a house, they know absolutely nothing. So let's start it in the most basic level. What is an option period?
Yeah. Well, should we even go through where that, within submitting an offer on a house in that timeline through the different milestones of your purchase, where that is?
Yes, absolutely.
So, okay, I'll start out. So, if you're financing, you get your pre-approval from a lender. If you're paying cash, you're good to go. Next step would be going out in finding a property. Let's say you found the right property. It's the perfect house. Then it would be submitting an offer on that property. Mm-hmm. So once you get that offer accepted, so you submit the offer, the seller agrees to it, and you guys now have an executed contract. So now that technically is the start of your contract and your option period. So that would be day 0 of your option period. So do you want to discuss a little bit what that is?
Yeah, exactly. So what an option period is it's actually a huge benefit to the buyer, so the buy side of the contract. So an option period, there's no firm number of days that it is.
Negotiable.
It's totally negotiable. I would say, just kind of to give you a rough idea, it's typically somewhere between 7 and 10 days. So let's just say like a weekish time period, and this is what's called your option period. So during your option period, this is when you have the ability to back out of the contract for any reason whatsoever. And in order to do so, what you're doing is you're putting up a small amount of money to have that option period. So typically we see this anywhere from $100 to $200, but again, this is totally negotiable. So let's say you go under contract, you put $100 down for...
And how does that work when you put the $100 down?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that a little bit too?
Go and do that? Sure. So when you put the $100 down, this is you're writing a check to the sellers of that property. So you need to go ahead and deliver that option fee, we call it, to the sellers. and they cash that upon receipt. So that's kind of like your good faith, like, hey, this is the money we're putting down in order to have this period of time in which we have the option to back out of the contract.
Yeah, it's how it is. It's a unilateral contract. So what that means is buyer has option to back out, seller is binded to that deal within that period of time. So for whatever reason, if the buyer puts $150 down for the option fee, now they're going to have the 7 to 8 days, whatever it is, to have their inspections, go through everything, and decide, hey, do I really want this house? So it's really awesome for buyers to be able to process, hey, is this really the right decision? Do I really want this house? And
yeah, it's especially good in a really fast-paced market too. So we're seeing a lot of properties where, the buyers like it and they just don't want to chance losing it by waiting to see what else is out there. So it's a good kind of backup option for you in order to, put that offer in, get it on the table, get it accepted, and then you have that time period in which to really, I guess, internalize it and make sure it's the right property for you.
And not only like internalize it, but it's the time where you do your property inspection. So if you want to do foundation inspection, if you want to do just a general inspection, termite inspection, whatever. And then within that time period too, if you get an inspection back and it said, hey, here's all the stuff that's wrong with the house, that's where, again, we would come in and help negotiate on your behalf to try to, let's use an example of some stuff we've had with different home buyers.
Sure.
I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, I've had fogged windows. I've had, roof stuff, a lot of HVAC, like heating, cooling stuff. So that's at that time where we can try to push back and have that seller correct any issues, or during that time frame.
Yeah, I mean, I've had one where we walked the property and it seemed like a real great property, priced appropriate for market, got in, did our due diligence with the inspection, and then the foundation. There was major foundation issues.
Well, how much did he say on price on that too? Because it shocked me. It was like, wasn't it like $20,000 to repair?
It would have been 20 to 30 grand down the road to repair that. And so that was really good that we discovered that during the option period. My buyers, they lost out $100, which in the scheme of things is nothing compared to $20,000, $30,000. They were able to walk away, find a new property that was a better fit for them, and we were able to protect them because they had that option period and they did their inspections. So yeah, I think it's a really great tool for the buyers to have, and it's that time of doing your due diligence and also being able to negotiate with the seller in order to make the deal kind of work out for everybody.
Exactly. And then after, let's say, once you get your executed contract, when it's accepted, that starts day 0. So if it gets executed today, that would be your day 0. And then tomorrow would be day 1, and then so on, 2, 3, 4. And you have an option till 5 p.m. on the last day to give your notice on that. So it's a super cool tool. Like I said, the seller's bound to sell that house to you, but the seller, but you're not bound to the seller.
Right.
After that option period is passed, now it's a bilateral contract where both you and the seller are, they're both committed to that contract. Now there's other things within the contract, but that's outside the option period.
Yep, exactly. And so one thing a lot of people ask during the option period, they say, they ask us a lot of times, do you recommend getting an inspector or an inspection done? And our answer is always,
oh my gosh.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
well, look at your example for, foundation for $30,000. I feel like, we have a pretty good eye for looking at properties. I mean, Sarah and I have done renovations, we've done flips, we've helped so many buyers through so many inspections. But that's one where it was hidden.
Yeah.
It was hard to notice anything. So that's why you get, a professional in there and tell you what's going on. So
Exactly.
Super good.
Exactly. So let's see what else on the option period.
So, okay, well, remember that the fee that you pay the seller for that $150, and again, it's a negotiable amount. So if you decide, hey, I'm going to back out of this contract, I don't feel good about this deal, or hey, the seller's not going to repair that foundation for me, well, you would lose the $150. But let's say you went to the seller and said, you know what, you negotiated with them, or you said, hey, everything looks good, I want to move forward with the deal. There's a spot on the contract where that will or will not be refunded to you. So we always, for our buyers, we always put will be refunded. So if you close on that purchase, that $150 is actually going to act as a credit to you. So you're going to get that back.
Yep. Yep.
So small deal in the, in the spectrum of the contract, but little things here and there add up, quite significantly, really. So
yeah, and so that was kind of, it's really a simple concept once you understand it, but I know a lot of first-time buyers and a lot of our sellers too, it can be kind of confusing knowing.
Isn't it daunting too? Like if you didn't know that, to be like, hey, oh my gosh, is this the house for me? I mean, so many questions that you don't have the answers to. So it's such a nice, comforting thing to say, hey, don't worry. If you like this house, let's check out the pricing, see what makes sense for an offer price, and you still have 7 to 10 days to make sure it's a good deal. And you know what? If you need to renegotiate, you don't feel good about it, renegotiate. So it just gives such a cushion and comfort. Make sure.
It does. Absolutely. So yeah, I think that was a really good topic for today. Do you have anything else on the option period?
No. Yeah, okay. No.
Okay, awesome. Cool. Well, this is a short one for you, but we thought it was a really important topic just to throw out there, helpful for both buyers and I think sellers too, just to kind of have an overall understanding of that.
No, I mean, on the other side, I guess we could talk. I mean, we're talking from the standpoint of buyers, but even talking from a standpoint of sellers, that's what are you going to want to do as a seller? You're going to want to reduce that 7 to 10 days to as low as possible and raise your option fee as much as possible, right? So, depending on what side we're representing would be kind of the advice and angle we took to best position that prospect. But from a seller, I would want those days as low as possible, and I'd want that option fee as high as possible. Why? That's skin in the game for the buyer. If the buyer has $300-400 in option fee that they're going to lose if they walk away, not to mention their inspection that, those are going to be probably $350 to $450, maybe $500 depending on, what inspections you do. So, depending on what token or what side of the game you're on, would depend the negotiating strategy. So
yeah, absolutely. I know recently we even Cal and I submitted an offer on a property we were interested in, and it's all strategy and negotiation, like you said, because we're like, we found a property we liked, and it seemed real clean, and so we submitted an offer with a 1-day option period.
Now,
because just because we felt like that was something that like I wouldn't recommend it to many people, but in our particular situation, we felt like that made the offer really strong, right? So it's all negotiable. It's all strategy. It's kind of like, just figuring out with your realtor, okay, what angle should we take on this in order to both protect you as the buyer and or seller,
sure, and
then also to make your offer strong, because your offer is not going to be strong if you put a 14-day option period.
Yeah, because let's say buyer comes in and says, hey, I want to do a 14-day option period, and there's multiple offers. Your likelihood of getting accepted is probably 1%. Unless it's crazy, but it's it's just really knowing depending on the market and what's going on, what you can do to maximize either A, the seller, or B, the buyer, to put yourselves in the best position. So, but yeah, overall option period is super wonderful. We've loved it. It's super fun to, it's just easier and less stress, little less stress going into it, knowing, hey, I have the option to purchase, or I do not,
Yeah, and it's kind of cool too, because at least in my experience with purchasing, and I think a lot of buyers feel this way too, you're looking at, half dozen homes plus, and it kind of, they'll in a way kind of start blending together at a certain point, and you're like, wait, this one, was this master this big, was it what not? It's cool because during that option period, you're able to go back out to the property. You can even go with the inspector when he does his home inspection and get just a little bit more knowledge about it. He'll fill you in, he'll talk through everything he finds, he'll type up a big old report for you and go through everything line by line, so you feel confident in moving forward with that home, assuming, the stuff that he finds either gets taken care of or it gets negotiated. I think it's just peace of mind also moving forward with that property to have gotten back in there and talked over it with an inspector.
Totally.
Anyway, so I think that covers option period for the most part. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to comment on this or reach out to us. And also, we'd love to hear ideas for things you'd like to hear about in the future. I know last week we got some people mentioning some of the different credit.
Yeah, that's right, with the credit repair or credit companies, I should say.
Yeah.
How legit is that? And not even legit, but I mean, accurate. With that, I mean, your score, it would say one thing, and then when they actually pulled it, it was quite different. So plus or minus in our experiences.
So we might have to bring in someone to talk about that in the coming weeks. But anyway, throw your ideas out there. We'd love to touch on some of those topics and questions that you guys have, and we appreciate you tuning in this week.
Sounds good, guys. We will see you later. Bye from Sarah and I.